I be saying hella. I be saying hella, bruh. You ever seen people talk about gang stalkers? Nah, yeah, I've never seen people talk about gang stalkers like this. You see a lot of talk about gang stalkers online. On a real, brothers. You see a lot of talk about gang stalkers online. If you Google gang stalkers, you see a lot of people sit there and they sit there with religious conspiracy theories. Um, you know, a lot of gang stalker talk comes to absolutes, where it ends up at an absolute like Jesus created gang stalkers, God created gang stalkers. Um, XYZ. There's a lot of discreditation that happens online. Paid actors who come into the space and they create bullshit stories to try and discredit people who talk about gang stalkers in any fashion. They make it seem like the most absurd idea out there. Like the most insane one that you could possibly think of. When it often ends up being the most rational when you truly think about it. Often tell who isn't a gang stalker. I talk to people about this frequently, as many people have asked me, how can you tell who it is and isn't a gang stalker? And it's always very difficult to answer because I sit there and I go, it's mainly like a sixth sense, you know. It's difficult to describe other than you just can tell and you can't tell. There are some people who, for lack of a better word, glow and don't glow. But I think the best description truly for it is this sense of visual radiation. The idea that like when you're looking at someone, there's a fuzz to their character, and it's different. You can distinguish many things by an immediate glance at someone. You can see many things from them, whether their character be positive or negative. I think for an immediate glance, you can most of the time tell with relatively decent distinguishment. You know, whether that be like an 80% hit rate. That's what we're talking about. But there's something different, something more than that. When you look at it, you see a visual glow to the characters, best described as visual radiation, like a fuzz to them when you see them, and something about their environment bends to them. Now, this is a key sign of a gang stalker. I think it might be the most used identifying factor for identifying gang stalkers that I've ever used. It's probably up there as the best that I've ever used. But like, if you pay attention to people enough, like especially what was I talking about at the very beginning of the video, 3 minutes ago. There's been quite a concise video, which I'm glad about. But what was I talking about? Yeah, something like versus the best is if you go to um like places of transport, places that people move through a lot, whether that be train stations, um, even places that people get taxis very frequently, uh, town squares. Um, there's a few others I could probably list. Any place that people go through very frequently, you notice these people. When you stand still and if you really look at the population for a second, you go, 9 out of 10 of these people are fine, but 1 out of 10 of them have a certain radiation to their look, like a certain fuzz to their character, and you see it when you look at them intensely. You can see it where you see them walking by, and there's something in their stare, in their manner, that you can clock onto and distinguish from anyone else, and go, that, dare I say, motherfucker, is a gang stalker, and it's visible from a mile away. It's almost hard not to notice once you start to clock onto it. And it's difficult to think nor talk about. Many people, if they hear about it, tend to determine. I should really edit these fucking videos because I talk like an actual retard in half of them. A lot of people tend to determine that they are ill of mind in some sense, almost immediately. The idea of someone talking about it is inconceivable to the average person, um, which I find kind of shocking. Like if you really boil it down, all it comes down to is the idea that the government pays people to keep an eye on you. Whether that be as an individual or as a mass. And I don't really think that's that unbelievable of an idea. You know, especially when we see things like government programs costing £3 billion. Like there's a lot of money being thrown around by the government, which I don't know how much I trust that they are in sound minds to throw around. But yeah, more on to gang stalkers. Um, I think I've described it pretty well. Visual glow around them. Um, you get a strong inherent sense that they're evil, and that's about all the information I can convey at the moment. Other than like high areas of transport, areas that people pass through frequently, tend to be hotspots for them. Uh, that's about it. Places of communion, places that people talk often. Pubs. Like I don't know if I mentioned it before in the previous tangent. Things like pubs, high area of gang stalkers. Um, yeah, watch out. Pay attention to the gang stalkers. Don't get caught out because they will. They can literally corrupt your mind. They'll fucking